What's up guys, Ben here bringing you another video. It is Monday morning. It's the week of the Major 3 qualifiers. Nice off week, but it's time to dive in. We've had a lot of roster changes. Let's talk about our tier list. Let's rank teams 1 through 12, and I'm going to show you guys where I think all the teams sit going into the upcoming Major 3, Major 4 cycles. I'm going to talk about who I think is qualifying for champs, who I think is going to perform well this split, and who may start to progress as teams have made changes pretty much across the board. Split. All right, so if you're new to this tier list thing or you're just watching for the first time, kind of here is how I do it. Top of the class is usually the top 2 teams in the league. I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. Sunday regulars are the rest of the top 4 teams. Top 4 teams make it a Sunday outside of champs. So that kind of explains that one. Fighting for Sundays is usually the rest of the top 6, top 8 teams in the league. Teams I think that are going to make Call of Duty champs. And then I don't know is pretty self-explanatory. I don't really know what to think of these teams. They could be bad. They could be good. Don't know. And then playing for EWC, this was a differently named category, but for now, these are teams that might be better, but at the moment, I don't think they have enough points or in a position to really qualify for champs. So their champs is going to be the Esports World Cup in July. All right, so I've already kind of pre-sorted this one. So I'm going to bounce around a little bit and kind of explain my thought process on how this is ordered. But let's start with the Atlanta FaZe very quickly. Another really solid performance from them. I think solid, maybe not strong enough. I mean, it's a three-peat now of LAN events, Major 2, Major 1, and EWC. And when these guys hit a rough patch, they just figure it out. Champs last year, poor placing, their worst placing ever at champs. They followed up and win the next event. They played poorly in December, get off to an 0-3 start. Well, they win the minor online tournament when they get back from the break. They win Major 1. So I don't know. These guys just kind of are at a different level as far as consistency from everybody else. And they look very good value to be a factor. Again, the dynasty conversations are kicking up. Yeah, these guys are running pockets right now in simp or sell, probably in the MVP conversation going forward. So let's talk about some of the teams that made roster changes. I'll go back to the bottom here. Let's start with LAG. So it looks like this team right now, as you can see here, Kismet, Lunars, and Priest is not exactly the roster they're going to have going forward. All right, so it looks like, based on some reporting here, your ARs will be Lunars and Fellow, and Ojani and Kismet will be the subs. So as far as the AR duo, there's some good chemistry there with Fellow and Lunars, and I'll be curious to see kind of how they handle that. I'm curious to see which one of them is going to be a little more sub machine gun oriented when needed. But it's not the worst AR duo in the world. It's not the best AR duo in the world. And if they can figure out the chemistry, it could be really interesting to see the squad play on LAN. Ojani and Kiz as a sub duo is interesting. I don't know if that play style, that type of team is really going to be aggressive enough to be impactful in respawns. In search, they can be a hard out, but I like this chance for Ojani. I didn't think he played too bad on Vegas last year. But respawn, we'll see what he can do at this level. It was not the worst changes for LAG. I kind of like them, but unfortunately, a lot of teams have gotten better, and I don't know if this is yet enough for these guys to be like in that top 6, top 8 combo. So unless LAG can come out and have the world's greatest stage and somehow net like 100 points, they're probably not making champs. And right now, I'm going to put them in last going into stage, but I can see them winning 2 or 3 and making winners bracket because we've gone from 7 to 5 matches, and you never know what happens with the 3-2 and 2-3 tiebreakers. Someone's got to be last. And for now, it's them. All right, let's talk about the Vegas Falcons. Just like LAG, they're making some changes, and they actually have 3 changes going into the stage. So Priesta has moved from LAG to the Vegas Falcons. Alec Arcides has moved from Challengers to Major 2 Open Champions. He has moved in now this lineup, and they have taken Pred from Optic. So if you're Vegas, getting Pred is a coup. Like, that is an insane land for them and someone that they can really build around going forward in a CDL. I don't know if it means they're going to be great or good this season, but like they can build a really good squad around Pred. I think Xnid figuring out his chemistry with Pred is going to be really key to unlocking this roster. It's not the world's easiest task, as Shotzi with all the things that he said on stream about that in recent weeks. But if Xnid can figure it out, I really like this sub duo potentially going forward if Xnid develops. I don't know how I feel about this AR duo, Alec and Preston. You know, Atlanta FaZe rejects, leftovers type situation there. There was an era of COD where this would have been a great AR duo. I don't know if at the moment it is. And I feel like this is kind of a Boston situation where they may just get kind of AR diffed a bunch online, but they could be a really hard out on LAN if it all clicks. So look, I think Vegas has improved. I think they're actually going to get points on the board with this team. They have a match against Optic coming up soon as well, which will be interesting. But yeah, could they get top 6? Absolutely. Could they get top 12? Absolutely. Are they going to make champs? Probably not, because they have 0 points. But come EWC time, they could be a really interesting squad to factor into the equation there. All right, so those are the teams at the bottom. Gonna bounce around here. Let's talk about Vancouver Surge, your grand finalists. I thought they had an amazing stage. They were one of the best hardpoint teams in the game last split. And they were really using that advantage to grind out series against teams when their control, which is decent, their S&D, which is still need a little bit of work. Were not the world's greatest, but definitely improved from their previous squad. I think it's fair to say that Neptune coming in has really kind of unlocked a lot of things about this team, and they should be a factor through most of this year. They just got to build upon getting smacked by Atlanta FaZe in the grand finals, and you could argue maybe if they had won that round 11 in winners finals, maybe they had a chance against FaZe coming from losers, but that's neither here nor there. I think Vancouver will be a factor. I have to still put Thieves above them just because on pure talent. And when Thieves actually play, I think they should be able to take out Vancouver, as we saw online going into the event. But yeah, these guys should be solidly top 4 for a minute. And another team at the moment that I think is solidly top 4, and they actually got top 3 at the major, is Toronto Ultra. I think that this is a squad that has finally shown the promise that we expected as far as consistency from Beans and Joe to C's and contributions from Kleenex. Still waiting for that Jamie Insight, like really generational run in an event, but he had some good maps. I think there's a lot to like about this Toronto team. They are a difficult out, especially in respawn, especially with Joe slaying the way that he's slaying. So if Joe's doing this consistent all-star thing, like Toronto's gonna be a problem. Don't know if they can take out FaZe or Thieves consistently, although they did take out Thieves on Sunday morning, so I gotta tip that. But Toronto top 4 in the conversation, should be a top 4 seed going into champs. And yeah, really like the way they're playing right now. Just want to see if they can maybe parlay this into making a final at Major 3 or Major 4, maybe EWC or champs. But let's circle back and talk about LA Thieves, because I don't know what happened with them at the major. Because you had series like this on Thursday where if you heard the listening for Thieves, they sounded like they weren't going 110%. They lost 3 or 4 maps to Boston, which was definitely surprising considering how Boston was playing going into the event. And they fixed things on Saturday night. They made quick work of Cloud9, absolutely slamming these guys, even though, second map was pretty close. Like, this was a pretty comfortable win for Thieves. And you're like, okay, going into Sunday, these guys should make a loser's bracket run and maybe we'll go ahead and win this whole thing. And then they have the world's biggest clunker against Toronto Ultra and let Joe Deceives drop a 1.47 on their head, Jamie Inside a 1.31, and Dan Ghosty 0.8. Like, you just look at these stats and you're just kind of mind blown that a team like Thieves can have this bad of a performance on a Saturday or on a Sunday morning when they should be locked in and just taking people out and cruising to play FaZe. So I just don't know what to think of that performance from Thieves, because they clearly, when they were on, were great, but when they were off, they were losing the teams like Boston that they shouldn't lose to. So I'm still going to leave them in second, but this is it for Thieves, man. I don't know why more people aren't talking about it. These guys have severely now disappointed this year. Yeah, I know they've been great online. Yeah, I know that going into this split, they're currently the second seed in the CDL. Yeah, I know Major 1, they almost won Game 7 round 11. But this stage was a stage that they should have made a final and potentially have won. And to get top 4 for me is unacceptable. They need to make the final of this upcoming event. Otherwise, their window to take advantage of their progression as a team may have kind of lapsed. And now they got to really fight for it. But I think Thieves should rebound and figure it out. So that's why I'm leaving them in the second spot, but pressure's on now. That was not a good stage, even though they played great online. They did not parlay that into an event win. They need to play better consistently across the board, especially on key matches that land. Don't know if ego or team chemistry is getting in the way, but unacceptable weekend from LA Thieves at Major 2. All right, so we got these 6 kind of weird teams. Some with roster changes, some not to talk about. Let's bounce around a little bit. Let's talk about the I don't know situation. So we'll talk and we'll start with the Miami Heretics. Lucky has now been benched and Super is being promoted. And this is basically it for Miami. This is it. Like, there's nobody else in the world of Spanish COD who is ready to step in his roster at the moment. The only player they can really pick up who's Spanish is Eric. And they've already tried that at one point. This is it. If this doesn't work, we're having the mixed, and we're already having the mixed team conversation with them about trying to improve on and build around Rail and Renko, who I think are talented. And the fact this team got, really good placing at Major 1. But as you can see from this table, they are sitting there on 100 points in the 8th spot, only 5 back of Cloud9, 10 ahead of Minnesota. Like, they're in a pressure situation. They can't kind of have a stage like this. Otherwise, they will not be making it to champs. So the pressure is on for them to figure this out with Super, who I think should be played better in his natural AR role than him subbing in for Metals as a sub that one day that everybody on the Miami team was sick. But I don't know what to think about Miami. They had a bad last stage, and I got to put them in the I don't know spot. We'll see how these qualifiers factors for them, but a bunch of teams around them have made changes. Can Miami keep their advantage and really factor in and lock in their champ spot this stage, or are they going to be fighting tooth and nail going to the weekend at Major 4 to see if they get into the tournament of champs or not? Another team that disappointed, and I had to move them off of Sunday regulars the last time I did this and down to fighting for Sundays, is the Carolina Royal Ravens. Top 8, and they got dumpstered by LA Thieves. I am very concerned that this Carolina team is not a good respawn team. Their S&D at times, people game plan for it and figure them out, and it's super reliant on them counter-adjusting mid-map. This Carolina team needs to lock in, innovate, figure out a new version of the game that they want to play, catch up. Otherwise, these guys are going to be lucky to just make champs because they got so many points from, online and that one LAN event where they played well at, aka Major 1. Because on 190, they should be safe for champs, but, teams like Optic are probably going to figure out a way to get 70, 80, 90 points, maybe more over the course of the next 2 splits. And this team will start to fall in the 6 or 7 spot. And instead of getting that winners round 1 spot against maybe a fifth seed where you have a chance, you're going to play either FaZe or Thieves potentially and win round 1, which, you don't want that. So I don't know if Carolina will make a further roster move if things get really, really bad here. We've been seeing them play online scrims against Optic and getting dumpstered the last couple of days. So not sure what to think about that. But I'm very concerned about this Carolina team going forward, and I feel that other people have caught up to them in their position of where they are at. All right, let's talk about Boston Breach. A surprise quality performance from Boston getting top 6. I really did not expect that performance out of them at the Major, and that was off the back of a really nice upset victory against LA Thieves in winners round 1. The problem for Boston is I think that's kind of their ceiling. Like, they can sneak an upset and back into a top 6, but that's really the best you're going to get from them. And unfortunately, the slaying is not consistent enough for this team for them to get deeper in a tournament. And as a team, this 5-16 record in Control is unacceptable. They have to get better at this game mode because it's a huge hindrance on them getting deeper or winning the swing mode in these series where they can get to a 1-0 or they're 2-0 and they need to close out, or they're 0-2 and they need to make a comeback. I don't know how you can be 5-16 in Control. That is insanely unacceptable. Now, Boston have 110 points, but again, Cloud9 starting to play a little bit better. Maybe Minnesota improve. We'll talk about their roster change. They're going to be fighting tooth and nail to lock into this spot, and unfortunately, they are second to last in 30 points in LAN activity so far this year. So those 30 points they just got were big, but I don't really know about this Boston team going forward. They could be good, they could be bad, and that's why they're in the I don't know category. Let's talk about the Minnesota Rocker. I want to potentially move them up going forward, but a bad split puts them in this spot and in a real difficult position, being in the 10th seed overall right now if you look at the standings. They're only 10 back of Miami, mind you, but the problems we saw with the Minnesota Rocker early season now has led to a lack of results and unfortunately a roster change, as they are rumored to be bringing Kenny into the team for Paul X. So I like this move because I think Ken's leadership, idea how to play COD, discipline could really instill the values that could unlock consistency from Geo and Estriel and Nero and suddenly make this Minnesota Rocker team, who at times can be a tough out, but they're just disappointing, to a really gritty team that's going to potentially be in that top 4, top 6 situation. The problem is that Kenny did not play that well in Optic, and so I have no idea if he's going to come to this team and drop a 0.7. Ideally, if he can come in and drop a 0.95, I think they'll be way better than what they were with Paul. But again, you look at this list, Optic has made a roster change. Cloud9 played better last split. Or Vegas or LAG going to start stealing points and wins and being the factor to make winners bracket. Minnesota's got to get it going. It starts now. So we'll see how they play with Kenny. For now, we put them in the I don't know category, and they can swing either or way at this point with them. An interesting team to watch going forward. All right, so I think that's everybody in the I don't know category. We talked about Minnesota, Boston, and Boston, and Miami. We talked about Carolina. So let's round this out and talk about Cloud9 and Optic. I think for C9, I don't really know what to think about the top 6 they got at this event, because on one hand, it's an improvement from Major 1, and it shows that they've, the work they've been putting in has resulted in them being more consistent. If they place top 6 throughout the year, I think that's a fair assessment of where their floor is at. If they can really figure it out, then they can make it deep on a Sunday. Stiv's playing well. Krem played great at the LAN. You got contributions from Mac and Attach. On the flip side, they're 1-7 on hardpoint and land, and that's a real problem going forward if they want to try and like hit their actual ceiling as a squad. So I don't know what to think, because I think they're right now, I would put them better than Miami, Boston, Minnesota, and potentially Optic. We'll get to them in a minute. But I can also see them starting to flip and then be in a position where if they want to make a roster change, a lot of teams have made changes and there's not really necessarily a sure thing player that they can pick up. So C9 one to watch. They are only 5 points out of 8th right now. So they're very much in the mix for a champs qualification. But just like all these teams, Boston, Miami, Optic, Minnesota, they got to get it going now to make sure you're not really having to win every match at Major 4 to make it to champs. And the last team of the squad, let's talk about Optic Texas and the roster changes they have made. So Ken officially gone, rumored to be going to the Minnesota Rocker. Pred gone, Vegas Falcons. Kyler Hook is now back to be a sub pair with Shotzi, and Skies for now is on this team with Dashi. So I've been watching him scrim the last couple of days. They look much better. I think Hook, obviously in the same way that Neptune is, kind of helped the situation at Vancouver. His frontline aggressive presence will create a lot of space for this team, especially someone like Shotzi to make plays and be an impact. So I think Optic should start winning maps and series with the squad, but I still have this question of whether or not this team is talented enough on paper, that an insane hard carry from Dashi and Shotzi to really consistently beat a Vancouver or a Thieves or a Fate. But I think if you're an Optic fan, more good days should come now that they have made these changes, and they should be in a position to qualify for champs and ideally make it deep into these tournaments. So I think their ceiling could be really high. Like, this team on paper could definitely win events. The floor should not be 12th anymore. I think realistically, at worst, this team should be 6th. So for now, I'm putting them like 7th on this list because I want to see them play actual matches first, because you don't win champs by winning scrims. You obviously get those scrim bucks and you kind of build off of it. But for now, if you're an Optic fan, this gets them off the bottom. I'm putting them kind of in the middle of the pack at the moment in that 7th spot. And we'll kind of see where it goes from there, because I could definitely see them passing Cloud9 and Carolina. There's a question of Thieves, FaZe, Vancouver, and Toronto. Can they consistently beat those squads and get deep into the tournaments on Sundays? We shall see. So yeah, that's a tier list. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more. And as always, guys, we'll see you on the next one.